This is episode 2 of Philosophic Reflection and Meditation. Last time we met, we spoke about the four elements fire, water, air, and earth. And we delved into the possible interpretations of their meaning. This time, I will reflect on the idea of the combinations of these elements and their reflections in society's functioning and emphasize what was missed. It must be said that fire, other than being able to give the resonance of life, being able to symbolize life through its igniting and inflammable pursuit, fire also is a symbol for passion, the inward drive. It is also an esoteric truth as well. When a person is moved, they might associate their movement with fire, as long as this is accompanied by intensity. Earth, we mentioned, is grounding. Earth, however, is also stability. It is the inward power of structure. There are no bones without earth. There are no bones without water either. But there is no society that has no building that is stable to keep up the roof above its head, both literally and metaphorically. To keep the roof up above your head metaphorically also means to protect yourself from poverty, which is the prime priority of all rational beings. That is what was missed. Now, as to combinations, fire in interaction with water usually gives steam. It may also give lava. The human being was compared to lava, according to one of the Bosnian writers, that the human being is like a volcano, like lava. He has blood. He cannot survive without blood. So an aspect of heated liquid in this circumstance, blood, is something that is crucial for a society as well as a man. In the context of society, the blood of society is the regulation of motion. It is the regulation of fire. It is the regulation of passion within normal and acceptable bounds. Too much blood will cause a person to inflate and to pass out. Too little blood will cause a person to pass out from exhaustion and lack of proper circulation. Therefore, just like in biology, the human being necessarily needs blood to function, the society as well has its circulation. Circulation being the essential symbolic reflection of blood within what is beyond the physical reality of the human being. In the context of a family, the blood of a family is their consistency in preserving either heritage or simply good interaction. The blood of a society, again, as mentioned, is the circulation of thought, meaning, and mutual motivation. Probably one of the biggest things that contemporary, not necessarily modern, but contemporary nowadays society is missing. As for the combination of air and fire, then this is, first of all, in the context of sciences, air and fire interact in human weaponry. They interact naturally as well. And air may accumulate the means to spread fire. But with enough air, fire can be put out as well. So air and fire are mutually affecting elements, which is very important. Because if air is the movement, as we mentioned, and fire outwardly is the razor, the destructive force, then with proper movement that does not overwhelm itself, destructive force can take over as well. This can be seen in our daily exercise. The more you move, the more flexible you become, and the more you get adjusted to varieties of movement, the more agile you become. Fire obviously follows, but fire may be exhausted by movement. It is often the case that people who run too much will lose their weight. Losing weight, they lose fuel. Losing their fuel, that which gives them inward fire, they lose fire. They lose that spark of strength. So air and fire may be regulated in different directions. Individually, the human being may regulate themselves so that they're more like air. They're more moving, they are more active, they are more dominating in the sense of being present in multiple facets of their action. They may also be more like fire, where they destroy that which is, we would presume in the context of positive thoughts, evil. So they have the fire of good, the flame of truth, which banishes falsehood, which banishes darkness. We would usually not associate fire and air together in opposition to darkness. Usually in our expressions in speech we say that fire, i.e. a candle or a light, has dispersed the dark, but we never associate air having dispersed the dark. We associate air with having dispersed leaves or having dispersed something which was in the way, may have cleared the road. So if fire and air are combined, they lose both their property of being elements that are usually expressed in a figure of speech, which says a lot. We don't usually say the moving fire or the storming fire. We don't say those kind of words. So let us put the thought experiment into action. What if there is a firestorm of good? Let's put it that way. How do we deal with that? A firestorm gives the idea that you have some kind of ignition of passion. Passion is driven by movement, and movement is required to have passion be seen. Passion in this context, of course, we mean passion for productive, mostly athletic, but also perhaps poetic or business actions. Nevertheless, whatever may be the context, air and fire together are a useful metaphor. And it seems to me that most people have a difficulty in handling just one element at the time. Now, is this the case because elements on their own have a propensity to overcome the human being? It may be the case because if the human being stands as the paragon of all creation, then his power is in the blending of different aspects of reality, not in the usurpation of one aspect or multiple specific aspects on their own. The human being may do so. There are many human beings that have devoted their lives to one idea, to one object even, to one person. But it is in the power of combination where they work most successfully. So when fire and air are combined, we may be able to overcome our natural self, which is only to refer to fire on its own, or to refer to air on its own. And in this case, we are able to refer to both elements and to make a moving ignition, a moving strength, a strength that is in balance, a movement that is in fortitude. Again, movement which is fortified. So movement that is not just weak, but flexible and extremely endurant, but also movement which may constrain itself, and be put into power. And again, power that is not blind, power that is not immovable, that is static, that is not flexible enough to reach those domains that it may not usually reach. So power moved by power that is moved, power that is put into locomotion, put into movement, power that is put into flexion, into fluidity. This is one of the possible combinations. How does it relate to society? There may be people who have a propensity towards air, people who have a gravity towards that element, which is that they are more in movement, they are more involved in the natural world, they are more involved in functioning in society from different angles, not appearing too much as air through wind is usually not visible except upon the things that it inflicts. They may be more obscure, but they may be also very evident. As much as wind may be obscure, it is also significantly evident when it strikes with great force. So these are people who may be useful as spies. They may be also useful as people who are flexible between different jobs, between different job positions. They are partitioned in different categories of knowledge. There are people of air in politics. There are people who are more dominating from instances of speech and more influential from, it seems to be fragmentized knowledge, but that also influences a significant yet not too big amount of other people, so that it can propel society into advancement. Again, fire may also be reflected in society. These are people who will rely more on external fuel, but will, when ignited, be functional in the direction of destroying obstacles. These are people of fire, not in the negative sense, people of hellfire, but people of fire, people of the element of fire, which is within the grasp of the human being by other means. These are people who are given enough tools so that they can perform an action. And it may be the case that for the most part, the people of air are those who give them the aesthetical aid that they need. But this may be an extreme, that we have given them only that function. So let the people of air who have been, to some extent, put out of their place, have the power to influence the people of fire in something that is not merely aesthetical. Let them help the people of fire work in more fragmental and piercing instantations. What do I mean by that? What I mean by this is that when they are put to work and they have a pattern, but the possibility of escaping that pattern is given to make something more accommodating, at least in the practicality of their work, let them exercise this advice from the people of air. In other words, people who are able to perhaps work in a way which piles up different tasks in a society, let them transfer that reality of experiencing job positions or of experiencing functions in society in such a way into the group of people who are more static and who are the ones that inflame obstacles, the ones that overcome them by fixed means. Let those who are fixed, like fire, be moved slightly so that they can experiment with that outlook as well. And let those people who are of fire permeate into the domains of those who are people of air, so that those fragmented jobs or fragmented tasks that they perform may also be strengthened by a type of stability, leading to a more reliable effect within society than what they would have been like by default if they were simply people of air. Such is a possible nature of the combination of the two elements. And now I'm considering whether the possibility of the combinations of these elements is infinite. The initial intuition would tell me that it is not, but that there are enough factors that can be enumerated, such as weather, fire, and in which cases is an element that overwhelms either other elements or other realities. Also, when it is contingent, when it is not fostering another essence, but it is also to some degree dependent on another. The same is to be applied on air, the same is to be applied on water and earth, but we are considering fire and air at the moment. Fire kindles and grants light. It is indirectly protruding. Fire on its own, does it give light? That is the question. We should refer to the physicists for this answer. But we would assume that light emerges from fire. But we would certainly say that it is not fire itself, as it is indeed possible for something to burn in complete darkness. Yet light comes out of that. The question is posed, is it possible to burn something without ever that burning granting light? To the extent of my knowledge, I do not know, but I would assume that this is possible, at least. Has it been performed yet? I do not know. Is it possible to derive a performance of an experiment to make that happen? I would say yes, probably, at least at some level. So fire is predominantly a protruding element, but its protrudence is indirect. It's not direct. And such is the case in society. People who have all the strength and who have all the valor to perform tasks are usually given attention by that which grants light, which is the means by which they were kindled, the fuel. For in it are the essential elements that grant fire, its shape which reflects light. We may have actually made a mistake in this reflection, but that is fine. But this will be shown for the purpose of educating others on how philosophic reflection includes mistakes. Let us correct ourselves. Light emerges from fire. It is irrelevant as to what the other elements are which constitute fire. What is relevant, though, is how light has an indirect relationship to fire, in the sense that it is not fire, but it is connected to it. It requires it so that it can exist. Therefore, light is perhaps to be appreciated only because of the faculty of the observer, as is fire. But what is more attractive to the observer, the one who sees this manifest of ignition, the fire or the light? It seems to be that fire is more frightening and light is more attractive. And had it not been the case for light, fire would not have its magnetizing effect as much as it does for most people. Some people may be attracted to fire that is less enlightened, but it is mostly the case when fire is put in such combinations that it grants light that it is more attractive. And such should be the case with society. Those given power to destroy that which is bad and false only have light which kindles the spark of interest in people. Only in the case of when this light is beautiful are they given attention. Similarly, wind is not as interesting as it is when it is emphasized by the natural world that it carries around itself. We will continue reflecting in the next episode.